welcome to our 10th leadership webinar series today. It's Wednesday, we're in the middle of the week. It's probably one of the hottest days in the summer, so thank you for joining us. Our theme this year, as you all have seen several times, is transcending adversity and cultivating leadership. I'm really excited because, as I mentioned, one of our speakers is an alumni of our cohort, of One Future Coachella Valley. And then we will have Debbie Espinosa, and both of them will touch upon their background a little bit about what they do in their nonprofits and organizations, and then they're going to share some tips, resources, and information with you. So welcome again to our 10th webinar. And a little bit about us. I know you guys probably know our mission already, but I think it's awesome because you guys are an extension of our program. And so I just want to go ahead and reiterate that our work really is about supporting students from high school into college and into their career. And if you can share that with other students and organizations, we can continue to support the program and the work that we do and continue to grow and cultivate our own talent locally. So that is One Future Coachella Valley, and we're very proud of doing what we do, and it's a very rewarding work for us. I also want to take a minute to thank the Anderson Children's Foundation because they have been supporting this month of virtual leadership sessions for you. Without programs like the Anderson Children's Foundation, it would be very hard for us to deliver the type of work that we're doing right now virtually. So I really want to say thank you. We're very grateful that you not only support our program, but our students, and have been doing so for a few years. So if Brianna is in the audience, I want to say thank you, Brianna. And I hope that you've enjoyed our series thus far. A couple of things, follow us on social media. So our following is continuing to grow, and we want to continue to have you guys engage in our social media platform. I know we have awesome members from our OFCV team managing it. For everyone, we'd like you especially to get onto the OFCV official one, and then also follow the 2021 cohort, because that's the one that's going to be giving you, program details about deadlines, documents, or events. So make sure that you follow us. And then webinar etiquette. You've probably heard this several times, but we like to remind you, especially given the fact that everything that we're continuing to do seems to be it's going to be done virtually. So just a couple of webinar etiquette reminders is that please, we're courteous to each other, we're respectful of each other's comments or questions. It's a very friendly learning environment. And then we encourage you to use the chat feature and also to use the Q&A. Our speakers are here giving their time to you. And as I mentioned, Agustin was once in your shoes. So please ask away anything that you might be interested in learning about. They're always eager to share their experiences and what they're going through now as well. So use those. If there's any technical glitches, also let us know in the chat feature. We've experienced technical issues in the past, and the sooner we can resolve them, the better that our webinar session will go, okay? And right before we jump into introducing Agustin, I just want to take a moment to remind you all that hopefully at this point, your vision board is growing. We started this idea when we initiated our Leadership Month, and we really wanted it to be a moment for you to reflect on what your goals, your next steps were going to be as you embarked in this academic year, or as you continue to develop yourself, whether it's professionally, academically, emotionally. And so as you're listening to both Agustin and Debbie today, I want you guys to either reflect on some of the questions that are here, or think of some things that you think you could do better in terms of community engagement or taking advantage of opportunities that might be available to you and might be able to save you some money while you're in college, or that might be able to teach you to save. So here are some reflection questions that you can use to get you started, but if you have your own, that's okay as well. Okay, so the three that we have is, how can I take advantage of community resources to further my education and decrease my college expenses? That's one. What can I do to continue to develop my leadership skills? As you've been speaking to, as you've been listening to our speakers, you'll notice that they're all leaders, and they all have different leadership styles, which I think is awesome. So think about that. And then the last one is, what organizations can I volunteer with to support my growth and also my community? So consider those in your vision board. And now, without further ado, I have the pleasure of introducing to you Agustin Arreola, who, as I mentioned, is one of our alumni and who's made us quite proud, you know, with his work, not only with our program, but with the work that he's doing now with Live to Rise. And so I am going to go ahead and hand it off to him, and he's going to share a little bit about himself. And then after we listen, you know, to Agustin for about 15 minutes, and we'll introduce Debbie, and then we're going to have some time for Q&A. So I will stop sharing my screen now, and I believe, Agustin, you might be on next. Yes.
Awesome, thank you. Yes, thank you for that introduction, Cristina. Hi everyone, my name is Agustin. I'm the Implementation and Engagement Coordinator for Live to Rise. I'll go a little bit more into depth at what we do at Live to Rise throughout the presentation, but I'll be presenting today on lending circles, which is a form of building your credit score and establishing it through what can be seen as a savings account through one of the nonprofits that we're working with, and they're doing great work at a national level as well as here in the state of California, and helping anybody that is participating in a learning circle improve their credit scores and learn about other financial educational resources. Fatima, can I switch the slide or? Perfect, thank you. So the presentation today is going to consist of who am I, and then what does Live to Rise do, and who is Mission Asset Fund, and how are we partnering to bring lending circles, and then what is a social loan program, go a little bit into detail and as to how you can go ahead and participate, and then go ahead and take any questions from that. So it's going to be a very simple presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat box. So Live to Rise, this is our North Star. We believe that we believe in a future where our Coachella Valley families are healthy, stable, and thriving. We're a collective impact organization, primarily working around addressing the underlying root causes of poverty and inequality in the Coachella Valley. So we work closely with OFCV and trying to bring resources as well that can help the community. Right now, what Live to Rise is doing in regards to the pandemic is we're providing rental assistance fund. So we received $33 million from the Riverside County Board of Supervisors to go ahead and help families who are past due on rent due to the COVID crisis that we're facing, and anybody that's fallen behind and that can prove that they've fallen behind due to COVID, then we go ahead and help them out by covering their past due rent with up to $3,500 in past due rent. So the Mission Asset Fund is a nonprofit located in Northern California. They deal with a lot of financial programs that aren't necessarily available to underrepresented and underserved communities. One of the programs that they started was the lending circles, and they actually built this program as part of cultural knowledge. So they realized that there was a lot of communities that were doing some form of lending that wasn't connected to banks or other institutions. And so there was really no record of that. And people were buying, they were buying their first car, their home, they were opening up their own businesses, but there was no record or no track. And in the US, having a credit score is kind of like your passport to being able to get your own car, buy your house. It makes the process much more easier if you can establish a credit score, because it has your history of like how well were you keeping up with your payments. And so the Mission Asset Fund saw that they were that communities were doing this, and they established lending circles to connect underserved communities and underbanked communities to financial institutions. So whether you're undocumented, whether you're in immigrant, or you're simply looking to improve your credit score, this program can help anybody. Lending circles are a global practice. As you can see, they have different names across the globe. In Latin America, they're known as cundinas or tandas. In the US, they're known as lending circles. But it's a practice where people come together, they put money into a pot, and then from there, each month, depending on the amount of people, they take turns getting that money. And so what the Mission Asset Fund did is this practice used to be built on purely trust. So people who join these circles, what they looked at was, are they family members, are they friends, and are they gonna pay me back, right? And that's the trust that they had. Mission Asset Fund knows that sometimes we might not know each other, so they looked at a way to make sure that people who were participating in lending circles, their money was guaranteed because they're saving that money, kind of like a savings account. But at the same time, it's building up their credit score. And I'll go a little bit more into detail as to how the lending circles exactly work and why it helps improve and build your credit score. So as you can see in this diagram, we have, I believe, 10 people. And so 10 people can come together and say they're going to go ahead and put in $100 for 10 months. 1 month corresponds to one person. So when you put $100 each month for 10 months, you're essentially saving $1,000. I think it's a good way to see that it's a savings account. It's simple math. But what happens is that while you're putting in this money, let's say you're the last person to receive the full sum, you have 10 months of history that you showed that you paid or were contributing to a loan. And so that's how the Mission Asset Fund will go ahead and report to, as you can see on the bottom right corner, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. They'll go ahead and report your credit scores and your payment history to these credit bureaus, therefore building and establishing your credit. If you don't have one, or if you do have a credit score, then they'll go ahead and, they're reporting it. So you're building your credit score and improving it. But just to reiterate, I think it's a very simple concept. It's people come together, you put in money, and then you take turns getting the full sum. And the Mission Asset Fund, their role is in securing the loan and making sure that anybody participating, regardless of if a person becomes unable to pay, that people are still getting the full money that they were putting in. Here's an example of what a lending circle would look like. And this is broken down into a lot more detail. Let's say, and I put Scholar 1, Scholar 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And that reminds me, I wanted to congratulate all of you all for getting the scholarship. As Cristina mentioned, I got the scholarship when I was at UCLA. And luckily, they gave it to me more than once. So if there's anything that I can go ahead and recommend you is to please stay in touch with OFCV. Work with them, they'll work with you, and they offer a lot of resources that I'm not aware of or that other people might not be aware of. So it'll be very helpful for you if you stay connected to them, not only in the resources that they can offer you, but just professional, any career advice that they can offer you. And now back to the presentation. So if you were to join a lending circle, your name would be attached to a month. And so that would be the month that you would be receiving the full sum. In this example, there's 6 people who are each contributing $100. So this person on row 1 is going to be getting the full 600 on June. And then scholar number 2 is going to be getting the full 600 on July. Each month, everybody is contributing $100 to the lending circle or to your savings account. And as you can see, deductions are made on the 17th of each month during the lending circle. And this is a lot. If you decide to join, this is a lot of the information that I can go ahead and go over with you. But it's a way to ensure that people know exactly where their money is going and how it's being used, so that you know exactly where your money is coming from and where you're putting your money into. And if you do decide to join, you'll also be getting a copy of the lending circles formation with the breakdown of the numbers and the dates that you'll be getting the loan for. One of the things that we thought about is, how does joining lending circles benefit students? We have on the bottom left corner that it's access to 0% interest social loan. Social loan is essentially lending circles. It's people borrowing money from people and connecting it to a banking institution, which then helps you build your credit. On top of this, the Mission Asset Fund will will also offer you financial literacy courses. So you can learn about what, credit cards and interests, how to buy your first car, how to buy your house, and like the process of that. And these are all done through educational webinars that don't last more than 5 minutes, that are interactive, and that are super easy and digestible for you to understand. The other benefit is that you can use this money for whatever you want. So while I have on the bottom right corner that you can use it for tuition, housing, fees, the reality is that if you want to use it for anything else, you can go ahead and use it because it's your money. The only thing that this program is doing is helping you build your credit and teaching you a little bit more about different finances. So this is what the process would look like if anybody decided to apply and join a lending circle. About 99% of the people who apply are approved to join the lending circles, because we do have to make sure that you have some form of income. And so we'll determine that when you apply. If you're a student, one of the things that I forgot to put on the slides, I'm sorry about that, is that if you're a student and don't have a job, then you can submit your financial aid letter, which is what you submitted to OFCV as part of your paperwork, to show that you're receiving some form of income. And so you can go ahead and use that to apply and become eligible to participate. Then you'll go ahead and join a circle with other students who decided to do the circle. And together you'll be building and making payments simultaneously, and improving your credit. At the end, you get to go ahead and do whatever you want with that money while having improved or built your credit score. So for those of you who are thinking about joining the lending circle, there are a couple of requirements. The first one is 18 years of age or older, which I believe most of you should be able to easily be eligible for. And then you do need an email because they are sending the application there. You need an ID, a social security, or an ITIN number. And then you need a checking account because the payments are going to be deposited to your checking account, and they're also going to be deducted. And so everything is done electronically through encrypted links to keep your money safe. And then, as I mentioned earlier, you need to provide proof of income. And that can be in the form of, if you're working, you can provide your W-2s. If you're a student, you can provide your financial aid package. Or if you're receiving any sort of public benefits, then you can go ahead and provide that letter, such as Social Security. And you can go ahead and we'll work with you to see like how we can go ahead and show other forms of income to help you become eligible for the program. But these are like the most common ones that we see and the easiest ones to attain so that people can go ahead and apply to the program. Cool, I think that's it. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I know I went a little fast, but hopefully it was digestible.
Yes. Thank you, Agustin. That's very informative. I think one of the questions I did want to ask is, I know you kind of went through the program and applying. In your experience, how many people participate and, how many successfully complete? And then, what does it do for their credit after participating, I guess would be one of the questions. Yeah.
Yeah. So we actually started lending circles with Live to Rise and the Mission Asset Fund in January. And we started with 6 people for 6 months. So in June, that cohort was done and everybody paid all their payments on time. They received the funds and they should have seen an increase in their credit score of 32 points. If they already had a credit score established, then they saw the credit score go up by like 30 points or something. If they didn't have a credit score established, then they could have seen their credit score increase like 160 points, which is a lot, a huge jump. The more history you have in your credit score, the harder it becomes for you to improve it. But if it's brand new and you are staying with the payments, then you'll see a pretty substantial jump in your credit score. So just as a quick breakdown, we started in January. We were able to launch one in January and one in February, and then the pandemic hit. And so Live to Rise switched over to providing immediate assistance to families in the Coachella Valley with cash disbursements for the first 2-3 months. And now we're doing the rental assistance. And so we're picking up again on, providing lending circles, but we were able to do 2 groups of 6 people. So in total it was 12. All 12 went ahead and completed the lending circle and nobody was behind on payments. And the Mission Asset Fund actually will work with you. If you fall behind once, then, or if your bank account bounces, they'll go ahead and notify us before they even report it to the bureau, so that we can work a way out, so that you can go ahead and pay. It could be sometimes that you forget to make a payment, or don't have enough funds and you need to transfer your funds. Then we'll work so that it doesn't affect your credit score.
Wow, what an excellent program. And just, as you're talking about it for our scholars, just know that, as you listen to Agustin and you listen to Heather speak, your credit is going to be very important. And the fact that, Live to Rise is providing this opportunity, and they're basically helping, walk you through the process of building and establishing good habits and good credit is awesome. So Agustin, I know you're going to stay on, because as they think and they kind of reflect on what you shared with them, we're going to be listening to Debbie, and then we're also going to have some more time to ask questions at the end, about your experience with Live to Rise, or maybe even your experience as a student transitioning into your profession. So thank you so much for that. Yeah. And so as we transition over now, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Debbie Espinosa from Find Food Bank, who's also joining us. And I just really want to say thank you, Debbie, for being with us and for making the time. I've seen your work with Find Food Bank has been having such an impact in our community right now with COVID. And I know that your time is very limited, but we feel honored that you're choosing to share your wisdom with our students. And I know yesterday we were kind of reflecting on some of the items that you were gonna cover. And I'd love for our students to get to know you, your leadership experience, a little bit about Find Food Bank. And so I'm gonna hand it off to you. And let us know if you need us. Do you want me to share my screen for Find Food Bank, or do I made you a co-host?
Yeah, I'm going to share this. I'm going to share my screen with all the panelists. So let's see here. I was having some technical difficulties. So I'm going to try it. And if not, I'm just going to do it old school without a presentation. How's that?
That's good. Whichever.
So let's do that. Tell me if you can see that.
We can. It's perfect.
Okay, perfect. So hello, everybody. So glad to be on with everyone. I actually presented last year at this same session in 2019. And, like I was telling Christina, I'm happy to make the time for this, because I think it is so important to make sure that we're talking to the future leaders within the Coachella Valley and around the world, for wherever all of you may be going to. And to be able to give you the tools that you need, and to be able to help however we can advance your work as you're starting to transition from college or high school into college, college into the career world, wherever you may be in that path, whatever we can do after having lived that experience, to be able to share things with you that we wish we might have been able to have, or had knowledge of at the time we were going through it. I'm happy to do that, because that's what we need in order to be able to make sure that we can advance our communities forward. I've been in the nonprofit industry now for over 25 years. I've been with Find Food Bank for a little over 2.5 years, coming down from the San Francisco Bay Area. And I just love the work that we do. I can't imagine doing anything else but trying to make sure that no one gets left behind with regards to hunger. We want to make sure that everybody knows where their next meal is coming from, because with the abundance that we have here in the United States and especially here in our valley, there is no reason in my mind, and I feel so deeply passionate about this, that anybody would have to struggle with regards to hunger. And so the food bank, being the regional food bank here for this area, that is what our whole mission and goal is to make sure that we end hunger in this valley. And we do so in a multitude of ways. It's not just literally about feeding people, although that will always be part of our core business. Find Food Bank is, there we go. Find Food Bank, we are the largest food rescue organization in the desert region of California for the Coachella Valley Desert region. We're also the largest hunger relief organization in the desert. We are the Feeding America Food Bank that represents one of the 200 Feeding America food banks. So we have a national voice too as well, and we feed a lot of our data and information out of what's going on here in our greater Coachella Valley Desert region to the national organizations, so that when they speak on behalf of hunger, our community isn't getting left out. We're also part of the California Association of Food Banks, making sure that we have a voice in the state of California for whatever moves, policy and advocacy-wise, the state is doing with regards to hunger and hunger initiatives. And what's interesting, and what a lot of people don't know, is that Fine Food Bank actually serves a really large service area. A lot of people think that we're just on the I-10 corridor with the main city areas of the Coachella Valley, but we actually serve this whole area over here that's bound in red. You can actually see that our area for the regional food bank is larger than San Diego County service area. Now, that doesn't mean by population. It just means by geographic expansive service area. And one of the things that we look at all the time is rural poverty and equitable access and distribution of food to ensure that even our outer lying areas have the capability of accessing healthy food. The key for us is making sure that we're not just distributing like chocolate bars and saying that we're doing our work. Our key is that we're distributing healthy food, because one of the things that low-income communities have the hardest time accessing are fresh fruits and vegetables, high protein items like milk, dairy, meats, chickens, whatever it may be. Those things that are the primary staples are sometimes the things that are the most expensive to buy at the grocery store. And it becomes an economic barrier for them to be able to access it. So when we source our product, being the largest food rescue organization in the area, and also as a food bank sourcing from people that are just straight up donors saying we want to be able to help, we always try to advocate for healthy foods, to the point where when we distribute food, over 50% of it now is fresh fruits and vegetables. And we serve, over 38 mobile distribution sites. We have 66 agency partners that span over 118 sites. So right now, throughout that geographic service area, we're hitting about 150 plus distribution points of food to try to make sure everybody has equitable access. In the last 12 months, which is really interesting, we were in 2019 or 2018 and 19, we were distributing at about 12 million to 13 million pounds of food. And because of what happened with COVID-19 and the economic impact, in 12 months, we actually did 18 million pounds of food. And it looks like we'll probably double in the next 12 months to about 24 million pounds. That's 15 million meals out to the community. And that's approximately $31 million worth of food retail value that they didn't have to buy because we distributed it for free, that they could reinvest back into things like rent, gas, to be able to get themselves over to their jobs, to be able to support themselves with a little bit more of a stable income, housing, clothing, the other necessities that you need in order to be able to live. If we can get you the food for free so you can take that money and be smart with it and reinvest it back into other things that you may need. In order to survive, we want to be able to do that, because food waste is not acceptable when we could be able to give it out to people who can then support themselves with other things. The other thing that we do besides distributing food is also looking at ending hunger for the long term. And a lot of these, when I start talking about services that you can tap into in order to be able to help extend and expand your reach with how you work through your own life as you're supporting yourself as you're going through school and college, these are some of the things that can absolutely help you extend those dollars to help you pay for tuition, or extend those dollars to help you pay for housing costs, or extend those dollars to help you take care of maybe family members that you're responsible for taking care of. Free food can help you do that, but also CalFresh and Medi-Cal and community health referrals to other things like rental assistance and utility assistance. Our food bank also provides outreach services like that too as well. CalFresh is key with regards to food. Many of you will qualify for CalFresh services. And this is that government benefit where many of you might have heard of EBT cards. You apply for it, it's an income qualification, but many of the times students that are going to school, taking care of families, a lot of the times you can qualify for it. And that's cash aid benefit assistance, where you literally go to the grocery store and use your EBT card to be able to pay for those groceries. Sometimes it can be a lot, sometimes it can be a little, just depending on where your qualification standards are, but we definitely want you to make sure that you can tap into not just the food resources at our food pantry lines, but also the CalFresh services and the Medi-Cal services to make sure you're taking care of both with food as well as with healthcare benefits too as well, and what other benefits that we can link you up with. So we have a website that you can go to, which is findfoodbank.org. And it will go ahead and take you to how you can link into our site and services to get you the food and where the food distribution spaces are. And Christina, I just want to make sure, are you still able to see my screen with the website pulled up now that I've switched off of the PowerPoint?
No, I can see only your PowerPoint where it has the findfoodbank.org, but it didn't switch off to your second screen.
Okay, hold on one second. Let me go ahead and do that real fast. Hold on. Well, let's see here. Let me do it this way. There we go. Now, can you see the website? Christina, are you able to see the website now?
Yes, I'm sorry, I had my mute. Yes,
Yeah.
I can see it.
Okay, so if you go to findfoodbank.org, you can find all of our services here. And in fact, you can go to the food distribution finder, where you can even filter and select the city of where all of the different sites are that you can pick up free food. The times and the dates, always make sure you call first just to make sure there isn't any changes, but we try to update this in live time. So it's almost every 24 hours, we're always making sure that everything on this is good. So these are all of our sites in India that you can go to, let's just say. But almost every city is here listed. At these distributions, we always have our CalFresh outreach coordinators and our community health workers that are there that can get you help with linking up into other services and even applying for services through our outreach models. You know, with regards to leadership, I wanted to just share something to you as well, because I think there's a leadership aspect of this when it comes to how we manage our lives personally before we start taking on roles and responsibilities with other places and spaces as we look at our career and our job. And I think what's interesting for me is coming from an immigrant family. You know, we have had so many times to be able to work through challenges that we've been facing, how to take advantage of resources to make our family situation better. You know, I can tell you from my own experience, we had to tap into services with me growing up. You know, my family came here. My mom and dad, they had 2 kids in hand, my sister and brother, and my mom was 7 months pregnant with me when they immigrated here from the Philippines. And for them, they came with $700 in their pocket and didn't know anybody when they moved up to Washington State. They had one contact that was there. And, you know, their whole goal and dream was to make sure that they could have a really great life for their kids and their family with all the opportunities in the world for them to have education, go to college, graduate. And all of us were able to obtain that. But it was because my family was really good at understanding the resources that were available to them to be able to support the worlds that we were living in. And I think what's been interesting for me is that I've taken, I think, that kind of immigrant mindset, and I've brought that into my world of nonprofits and Find Food Bank, not just working with the clients, but also how is it that I look at structures and leading organizations by always looking for the resources that can help not just the organization, but the people within the organization. So what it is that you're doing in your life right now, in order to be able to help you advance through the world to get you to the point where you're looking for, those are absolutely translatable skills to be able to also help you find a way to lead an organization or to be able to lead people or departments or whatever it may be. I posted up, I was just interviewed for a national publication with regards to how the food bank has been pivoting through kind of this monumental time with COVID-19. You know, we were feeding about 90,000 people in February, and by the time it was May, we were feeding 190,000 people. And to be able to pivot that fast and change all of our operations and change all of the way in which we did stuff in order to be able to keep up with the demand, it required pivots and decision making, much like my parents had to do when they came here to the country, not knowing what was going to be in front of them. And so it was funny, like sometimes when you're talking, you don't realize what they're going to quote you on or what they're going to highlight. But this was the quote that they highlighted for me. And Christina, are you able to see the quote? Because I switched back over to the PowerPoint.
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah. So I said, too many leaders are afraid of failure, so they freeze. In disaster mode, which is what Find Food Bank has been doing, or what my parents did at the time that they came to the United States, we realized that being indecisive because of that fear that's causing us to freeze can be just as bad or worse than making the wrong decision. There's this phrase I want everybody to remember, which is the fear of failing forward. Is failing forward. Sometimes in order to progress yourself forward, there will be failure. And that's okay as long as you learn from your mistakes, as long as you understand through that failure the resources around you that you could have used to help you make it through that time, and be able to use those resources in the future to be able to help yourself and help others. And that's the way that Find Food Bank has been maneuvering through these pivotal moments, is to make sure that we're capturing all the resources that we possibly can without fear of making the wrong decision or making a mistake, because we know that could potentially happen, and it has happened. But it has advanced our work forward, so we're taking 2 steps forward for maybe a half step back, but either way we're progressing and moving. That's what I wanted to share with all of you today, is take these resources, what Lift to Rise has shared with you, what Find Food Bank has shared with you, what all the other leaders have shared with you, as part of these moments where you're kind of in this pivotal stage of your life, as you're progressing forward from high school to college to your first professional careers. Those are major pivots. What are the resources that can help you make those pivots? And don't be afraid to tap into them. Follow your heart, follow your instincts, follow your energy, and let that guide you into making sure you're taking advantage of everything that you can do to make your life better, because I guarantee you will use those same skill sets to help you advance with whatever career and the people that you're working with, managing, leading, or directing. And so with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Thank you so much, Debbie. I really love your quote. I think one of the things that, I don't know if it's society or if it's been the pressures of everything, that failure is often talked about in a negative manner. But, if you read about people who have impacted our community or anything in our world and in our lives, they've had more failures and successes. So the fact that you put it up there, I think it's reassuring, and I hope it reinforces that it's okay. That's a part of growth. It's uncomfortable, and it's not about how many times you fall, but how you get up and how you move forward. So thank you for putting that quote. I really love it. And in terms of Find Food Bank, yes, I think the reason that we wanted you and Agustin to join us was because we think that there's so many resources in nonprofits. It's sometimes either one, we don't know about, or two, we might think we don't qualify for, or or that maybe sometimes we're shy or embarrassed to access. So I guess one of my questions to you would be, as you were going through college, and you were kind of figuring out, what you wanted to do. I mean, you're in leadership now. How did you find that? How did you did you do internships? Did you engage? What kind of work helped you develop to the position you're in right now?
Yeah, so just so everybody knows, my parents, and I think it was the most beautiful thing they could have done for me. They did not pay for any of my college. I was 100% on my own. I paid for all of my college application fees. I found all of my federal aid. The only thing that they did was sign on the federal aid form to guarantee the loan, or whatever it was, the Stafford loan. But everything else I did on my own. And I might have fought it at that point in time, but I look at myself now as a leader. And I think the fortitude that built at such a young age, at the age of 17 and 18 and 19 years old, to kind of have to make my way. My family was very loving. They supported me and they wrapped their arms around me, but they said, if you want to develop your skill sets, you got to learn how to manage your life and your business. And part of that is learning how to put yourself through school. So I did internships. Like, I went to school in Kansas City, Missouri. I went to the university, Rockhurst University, which is a small private Jesuit there. And I did it on a leadership scholarship because I was already doing a lot of volunteer work through high school. But on top of that scholarship, it didn't pay for everything. So I worked a part-time job and I did internships because I wanted to make the right connections in order for me to be able to have the best launching out into my career after I graduated. And I knew those contacts were going to serve me well, not to give me a job, but to at least speak for my ability to be able to do things, to at least try to get me my first job. My contacts were great. They were like, we're not going to employ you, but we're going to help you find your first job. And that was, and I never got angry. I never was like upset. I was like, you know what, like anything that you can do to help. So make those contacts, do those internships, do your part-time jobs, be proud and be strong about supporting yourself if you are supporting yourself. And if you're not supporting yourself, be super thankful that you have a family that does.
Sorry, my mute. Agustin, do you want to share a little bit on that question on what you did to position yourself where you are now? And then after Agustin answers, I'd love to encourage our students to include some questions in the chat for both Debbie and Agustin. But if Agustin, if you want to, also share, and then we'll wait for some additional questions on the chat.
Yeah, thank you. I'll go ahead and share briefly. I think for me, the biggest, and the reason why I mentioned earlier to stay connected with OFCV, and I can attest to what Debbie's saying, is that sometimes, your network and your mentors are the ones who at the end of the day are going to help you. They might be able to employ you, or they might be able to help you find other resources or other places that they can connect you to go ahead and apply. But for me, I think one of the most critical components of my support network was One Future Coachella Valley. Christina knows this. Christina has seen me, become the person I have come today. She's seen me through my ups and downs. But it's been having a network like that no matter how many times I fail, there's always someone there that's going to be like, it's okay, get up, move forward, continue learning from this experience. And so just alone my experience with One Future Coachella Valley and being part of the student leadership team, attending the conferences, that helped in some way in preparing me for the role that I'm currently doing right now at Live to Rise. And so it's something that, you learn to adapt based on the situations that you're in, but it's always with like looking forward that failure. I was always afraid of failure. I think it wasn't until I got to college that I really started failing. And then that's when you start taking things with a grain of salt, because it is what it is, and you learn from those situations.
Thank you, Agustin. Yes. And you said a really good word, adaptability. That word has been coming up a lot through COVID. Adaptability, flexibility, being fluid. And I guess, I'm looking and seeing if we have any questions here. I have tons of questions all the time. But I wanted to see if any of our panelists had a question that they wanted to ask, or I can also continue to ask a few questions and then encourage our students to ask anything. Oh, I think it looks like we have a question now. Do you know of any resources to find food banks outside of the desert? Okay, so do you have are there any other organizations that are similar to Find Food Bank outside of the Coachella Valley?
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you're planning on traveling throughout the country, you're finding jobs and go to the Feeding America National website, you'll find food banks that represent all zip codes in the United States, as well as Hawaii, Puerto Rico, all of them. But, there's 211 has really great resources with regards to how to be able to find food pantries too as well. If you're having a difficult time going through the food banking network, go to 211. In every city and every area, there's a 211 that can link you up to resources. If you're looking for the immediate area of Riverside County, you can definitely go to the Riverside County. We've been working with Riverside County, and they've been doing this meal mapping heat map of where all the food distribution resources are throughout Riverside County, paired with 211, because we want to make sure that everybody has a multitude of places to go to be able to find information to access resources.
Thank you. And as you're talking about food, and I'm thinking about college students, I do want to reinforce the fact that you have these resources available and take them, because research has shown that our college students are very, they're the ones that also experiencing a lot of food insecurity,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. We have right now, College of the Desert, before COVID-19, when we had sites that were open, College of the Deserts, we were running community mobile markets, free food distribution points right at the College of the Desert campuses. I know CSUSB carries a food pantry. UCR is looking at carrying a food pantry at their main campus and down here in our valley too as well. And so, there's a lot of linkage with regards to food and food resources. We work with the association and the California Association of Food Banks in the state of California, as well as Feeding America, to make sure resources are out there. But I cannot emphasize enough the CalFresh benefits right now for college students. Try to tap into those things, because we want that money to go to people that it should be going to. If we don't tap into those benefits, the government doesn't think that we need it, and so they keep slashing the budget on it. So try to apply, try to apply.
Yes, thank you. And I think Fatima popped up. Fatima, do you have a question as well?
Yeah, more of a comment. I just wanted to say that in terms of the lending circles, I did do the lending circles with Lift to Rise. I was introduced to them through Agustin, and thank you, because I just established my credit. This literally was the first step for me to establish my credit. I did my undergrad as a dreamer, so I didn't have my social security number until about a year ago. And so you get it, it's new, there's nothing on it, there's no records, and then I found out that that's the case for a lot of students, that even if they did have their social security, they just never use their credit, right? And sometimes it's for a good reason, because you don't need it. You don't need a credit because you have scholarships and you have grants that are helping you get through. But that's something that we've been noticing. Once we graduate and we're ready to go into the workforce and become professionals and, working adults, we end up starting, like my case, I had no history. I would go anywhere to try to run my credit, and they were like, "Are you even on the system?" Because there was just nothing. So for me to even get it started, to get something on it for other future transactions to be, for something to come up, I can't say how much lending circles help me. They're very friendly in terms of the requirements to be part of the program. So it definitely helped me, because I had no credit and I still was able to get into it. And I mean, my credit right now is over 700 points, and it's not just because of lending circles, but it definitely helped me establish my credit so that I could then apply to other ones and help me get, from there. So I just have to say that if you don't have a credit yet, or you're not thinking on getting it anytime soon, doing it through lending circles as a savings, as a way to save, it's definitely a great opportunity. So look for those opportunities and start working on it while you're in college. I definitely encourage you to do that. So that when you're ready to, to start into the real world, that you already have something established and can make that car purchase or apply for the bigger credit line that you might need in the future. So just as a comment, and I also wanted to ask Agustin, if you can share with us how we can, how we could apply if anyone is interested, if you can share the website where they can kind of like do the chat feature, start going and starting an application so that some of our students can copy and paste it in and have it ready for when they might need it.
Yes, and that brings a really good question. The chat feature, Fatima, and to add to your question is, do Dreamer students or, students without a social security, can they access, either food or Lift to Rise? If maybe you can also add, as you answer the resources there.
For food, we just ask you, are you in need? And there's a sign off that says, do you make below this? And we don't do income verifications. You don't have to be a citizen. You don't have to have any kind of status with regards to immigration. If you are hungry, you're hungry. We will feed you. With CalFresh, there are some requirements with regards to that. And, we do have to talk about that a little bit with regards to if you're applying to be a U.S. citizen, there might be some things with regards to some of the new rulings that our outreach counselors can work with you on, but we definitely want to make sure that you're aware that there are some things that got tagged onto CalFresh, unfortunately. We advocated really hard that it wouldn't have any kind of bearance on status, but sadly, the government didn't listen as much as we would have hoped they would have. So yeah, but free food all day long. Come on in, let's go.
Then I went ahead and just shared the link to the website that you can go ahead and visit to go ahead and apply. It's very simple. You type up your zip code. So if you live here in the Coachella Valley, any of the 9 cities and then unincorporated areas, when you pop up that, it'll show you my contact information, as well as a link to the application that you can go ahead and fill out. And it's again, it's a super simple and easy application to fill out. But I also wanted to piggyback off what Fatima said. There's multiple ways that you can establish and build your credit. Some ways are, they can be draining. And so lending circles is a great way in that you're not getting a loan. It's a savings account, right? So when you buy a car and you're making payments to it, you're building your credit in one way. But now it's, it can be, you can have a higher interest rate. You can have a lot of other factors that are not accounted for. Through lending circles, there's none of that. It's literally like a savings account, but it's being reported to the credit bureaus. And so therefore, that's how you're building your credit score. And so it's a much healthier, less stress-free way to go ahead and build your credit score without getting into debt.
Can I add really fast to the lending circle conversation, because I want to talk about the importance of it with regards to hunger. We look at root causal work of hunger. So not just about feeding people for the now, but trying to end poverty with regards to looking at root causal work. When we just did a study with Loma Linda University on about 500 of our clients and the things that cause them to be in the food bank line in the first place. One of the things that they identified was financial literacy. And I cannot begin to tell you how important what Agustin is talking about, because one of the main mechanisms of why people can struggle financially when they're right on the borderline is that if they don't have established credit, or if their credit is bad, they need to buy a car. So they go out and they find their buddy who's going to give them a loan. And because either their credit is bad or they have no credit, their loan's coming in at 16 to 20%. Whereas if they had good established credit, like Fatima, great job on plus having 700 on your credit score, your loan rate's probably going to be closer to 2% on a car loan because your credit is strong. That can be a difference of $50 to $100 a month on a car payment. That could have went to food or housing or clothing or whatever it may be, medical bills. But that's the importance of the lending circle, I think, and that whole idea about credit is that it doesn't just help you with finance, it also helps end the hunger poverty cycle too as well by utilizing and being smart with money.
That's an excellent segue to the question that just came up in terms of what is an interest rate. And you kind of covered some of it, Debbie, but I don't know, Agustin or Debbie, if you want to kind of share a little bit more about that in terms of, I think the lending circles is a 0 interest rate, if I'm hearing correctly, right,
That's
Agustin?
correct. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Agustin, you're the money guy today, so go for it.
Of course. So the best way to explain what an interest rate is think about the amount of money that you're going to go ahead and borrow from a bank. The interest rate is what you're paying to borrow that money. And so if you borrow $1,000 and your interest rate is at 1%, then you're paying $1. Correct me if I'm wrong in the math, but if your interest rate is 1% for $1,000, then you paid when you finish paying off the total amount. I'm sorry?
$10.
$10. Thank you. So when you finish paying off the loan, your interest rate was at 1%. If you borrowed $1,000, then you end up paying $1,010 because that 1% is what the bank is charging you to borrow that money. And depending on your credit score, they can look at you and be like, oh, are you a bigger risk or you're a lower risk? If you're a bigger risk, the way they see it is that they have to charge you more money, which doesn't necessarily make sense, but it's the way our financial institutions work, is that if you don't have a credit score that shows that you've been responsible in some way, shape, or form, then they'll go ahead and charge you higher interest rates. And if you have a higher credit score, which means you're being more responsible, that interest rate is going to be lower. So you're saving more money when you buy a house, when you buy a car, or take out any loans.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's the key thing here, that, Live to Rise is lending you money, or, this program is doing it in a free manner. So normally institutions, it's very hard to get 0 interest. Once you're in the real world, most of the time they want to charge you something, right, for borrowing their money. And so, yeah, as Debbie and Agustin mentioned, the better your credit, the less money out of your pocket, the more money you get to have for either food, rent, and it increases and improves your quality of life, by doing that. So I think, yes.
So and this is really interesting, and that was what I was talking about earlier, is the life skills that you're developing are the things that can definitely translate into the business world. So for me being a CEO, there are credit scores for businesses. We actually have business credit scores too as well. If I don't understand how to manage that within my own life, it would be difficult for me to be able to manage that for a whole organization that now works with millions and millions of dollars on an annual basis and leverages loans all day long to buy $250,000 worth of tractor trailers or whatever. I'm working for a mortgage payment for a $3 million building on an interest rate of a 3.5% loan. I have to understand these concepts, and the best way to understand them a lot of the times is how do you manage your life? If you can understand them for yourself, you can very easily translate them into how do you understand them for business applications.
Excellent.
And by the way, they ran my credit for this job because they have to know that I'm responsible as a person in order to be responsible before they give me the keys to the bank for a large organization. They check my credit score.
And I hear that's happening more often now than not for employment. I hear that that's becoming a common practice, right?
If you're in the financial industry, they're going to make sure, depending on for some, it's not allowable. For some positions, if you have direct management over finances and access to bank accounts, they do have the ability to pull credit reports to see how you're managing the money as part of the background checks.
Thank you. Awesome.
If I can add real quick to that too. So if you're in financial positions, or also if you're in any security detailed positions, so if you want to be a police officer, if you want to, anything that, would require some sort of risk, they look at your credit history to see kind of how you've been behaving, right? And so they'll also use that. And that's why some employers check credit scores, is because they want to make sure that they have some sort of a picture of the type of person that you are.